We're live.
I can't see the screen. You move it a little bit. No, move it back so that I can see. Hey guys, so this is a bit of a makeshift version here, but I hope you can see me. It's actually, I've got a special guest speaker today. So I don't know if you can hear me properly. I'm on a WhatsApp call to my special guest speaker. I've given them full access to my Facebook account, so they are now live from my Facebook account. We've decided to do it this way. We're going to do a lecture every single day at 5 p.m. Every other day is going to be a special guest speaker. So you'll get me 50% of the time and then a special guest speaker every other day. If you could help us by sharing this live feed on your own page or in a group, that would be awesome. And please like and comment during this, guys. Awesome lecture, because it's going to be fantastic. So, without further ado, please let me welcome you our special guest speakers for today, talking about the subject of communication from our Scientology handbook. We have Mrs. Sandrine Mootoo and her fiancé, Luke Hall.
Yay. Thank you, Charlie. Well, hello. Bye now. Hi guys. So like Charlie just said, we wanted to do a little talk about the subject of communication, because it's obviously something that we use all the time in our lives, and Luke and I thought that we might cover that subject today. So basically the lectures that we're doing are based on the Scientology handbook. So they've got little chapters to do with different areas of life, and they are completely accessible to anyone. You can literally go online and find it and do the free Scientology courses. They don't take very long. And yes, so we thought we'd cover something that we have, obviously we use all the time, but also have found to be a very successful thing in our relationship, which is communication in general. But what actually is communication? Is it just like talking at someone, like babe, 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 babe? Or does it actually mean something more? And how do you ensure that when you're communicating with someone, they actually receive what you're telling them, really understand it, and then communicate it back to you? So, yes, so I don't know if you can see this, but this is basically the Scientology Volunteer Ministers website, which you can access literally by writing Scientology Volunteer Ministers. And then it has some very, very good and important information on what communication actually is and the components which lead to understanding. So Luke, I think I've rambled enough now. So do you want to go over it or add to what I just said?
Sure, yeah. So obviously there's 3 parts that make up understanding, or communication, rather. One is affinity, so it's the likingness or wanting to be close to or far away from, if you have a lack of affinity. Reality is the things that we agree on. So
wait, so 1 second. So with affinity then, like, so you're saying the degree of liking for someone?
It's the degree of liking, yeah,
right.
Or love.
Okay, so like if we have lots of affinity, we want to be close to each other.
Correct.
Which is most of the time in our relationship.
Exactly.
Except in the mornings. But then, so for example, guys, like, do you know people that are in your life that you really want to be around all the time? Like people that you just can't wait to be around, or people that you just gel with, or you're on the same vibe, or on the same kind of like level? Because I think we kind of have that. And then you also have it with friends. So then what's the opposite of high affinity then?
Well, the opposite would be no affinity, so not wanting to communicate with someone, ignoring someone, example would be looking away.
Not listening.
Or if it gets down to the, really goes down, if it gets really low, then you have an exchange of, say, fists, or we have bullets.
Yeah, we don't do that though.
No, we don't do that.
It's all about peace and love.
We'll just do this.
Okay, good. So in order to understand something, you need to have affinity, which is the degree of liking, or like we would say love. So the love for something.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what's the second one?
The second part is reality. So the real things that we agree on. So an example would be, Sandrine, do you agree that this is an iPhone?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you agree that I have long hair?
No.
No, so we don't have reality with that, because that's not reality.
Yeah,
right?
so they're the things that you agree to be a certain way.
Correct, yeah.
So if I say to you, do I look nice in that top, and you're like, no, and I think I look amazing, then it's not gonna go very well, is it?
No.
Okay.
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense as well, because sometimes, you know, like you might be around certain people and you might have a viewpoint, or you might have something to say, and then they have a completely different way of seeing something, and then you're a bit like, nah mate, you're crazy, I don't want to be around you.
Yeah, sure.
Or for example, like let's say if you believe in saving the world, and then someone is like, no, it's all about destruction, pollution. So you wouldn't have the same degree of what? Oh, the same agreement.
Yeah, you don't have the same reality. You know, some people might, they want to be a soldier, as an example.
Okay. So, hi Rodrigo. Hi Giorgio. Okay, so then what's one thing that we agree to be real? Like, what's some of the things that we agree on?
We agree on caring for each other.
Yeah. Oh.
We agree that this is a yellow top.
I thought it was actually green, but
Is it green?
I don't know. Oh, we agree that we share the same religion.
We do. Yeah.
Wait, does that? Yeah, that's kind of like
An agreement. Yeah.
agreement.
Sure.
Then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and we both agree that I'm incredible.
Absolutely. Of course.
Yay! Okay, so that's the second point of understanding. So you have to have affinity, love, or degree of liking, and you have to have reality. So things that you agree to be real. And then what's the third one?
Well, it's communication.
Okay.
So to communicate, you have to want to be near someone, or
Yeah.
like someone, and you also have to have something that you both agree on to talk about. You know, because if we don't if we don't agree on things, then we can't really talk, because there's nothing to talk about. You know.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And it says here, by the way, from the Scientology volunteer website, it says communication is the most important of the three parts in bringing about understanding. So communication is senior to reality and affinity.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is a communication?
A communication, as read here, is a message or particle through distance in a certain direction between two exact points.
Okay, so how does that actually work in real life? So it's a message.
So it's a message. So I have a message, Apple. I then send through the sound waves of my voice to your ears. You hear Apple. It then goes into your mind, and you go, he just said Apple.
Okay, makes sense. So for example, if I'm like, hi Luke, so that's a message.
Yes.
That's a communication.
Well, as long as I receive and then acknowledge the communication as a full.
Okay, so then that's a full communication. But so communication is a message or a particle that goes in a certain direction between two exact points.
Yes.
So if I'm like, hello Luke, that's a communication that I'm sending to you.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And so, and it says it can be two ways. So then if you reply to me,
Yes, Sandrine, hello.
hello,
Yeah.
so then that becomes a two-way cycle, a two-way communication.
Correct, yeah.
Cool. That's very interesting as well here, guys. In the website, it says communication is not just speaking to someone. So it's not just like sitting there and like yapping away and talking at you.
Yeah.
Which I never do.
Never.
Never.
Never, ever.
Yeah. I'm very good at communicating.
Yes.
So communicating is more than just speaking at someone or to someone.
Correct, yeah.
So it has to go from one terminal to another,
Yeah.
be received and understood, and then be sent back.
That's it,
And
yeah.
that's how communication works. Okay, I think so far that makes sense. So then what does it say? Then it's interesting because this little course, by the way, on the Scientology Volunteer Minister website talks about relationships, right? And it says that marriages can fall apart simply because of a failure of communication.
Correct.
When communication starts failing, the affinity starts dropping. So you don't want to talk to someone, or you're not talking about something, so you tend to like them less, right? And it says people start having secrets from each other, and their affinity starts going out the bottom, so out the door.
That's it.
So that's quite interesting. So it's saying here that if you don't have communication, or if you're not willing to communicate with a person or terminal and in relationships, then what can happen is you start liking them less, and then you start having secrets.
That's it. That's correct.
With each other. Do you have an example of that ever happening to you?
An example.
On the spot there.
I don't know. Maybe I bought something expensive on Amazon, and I didn't want to tell you about it.
Yeah.
And then I don't tell you about it, and then I stop talking to you, and then I hide, and then I don't, and then it just it goes into something bigger than what it should be.
Oh, so what did you buy?
I bought a CD
Okay,
player.
we'll do that offline, off screen, off camera. Makes sense. Or you have kids. Maybe they accidentally break something, and then they don't want to tell their parents because they don't want to get in trouble. So then they're not talking about the thing. So then they don't want to be around their parents, because if they're around them, they're gonna feel like they want to tell them.
Yeah.
So then they start to have secrets against each other.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense. So that's basically, that's the thing, guys. Like that's the main kind of like simple, basic definition of the terms used in Scientology in order to bring about understanding. It's quite interesting that communication is the main important one. We're glad we're sharing it too. Thanks, Mel. So yeah, do you have anything to add on that? What would you say for you personally is the most successful thing that you have done in order to communicate with me? Because sometimes it's not easy. Like, sometimes you're with your partner, you're around them all the time, especially right now when you're in lockdown and you can't leave the house, so you're constantly in their space, right? If you live in London, you have a tiny flat, so you can't even go outside, right? So what would you say then is the thing that you do communication-wise to keep that affinity and that reality strong?
I'd say that the most important thing is granting of beingness. So
what does that mean for people who don't know what that actually means?
Yeah, communicating when the person does something nice for you, make sure you acknowledge it correctly. So I don't know, Sandrine makes me a tea, and I give her a big thank you, and so I love her, as an example. Or
make great teas.
Or I don't know, I can see that she's just put on a new jumper and she's trying to look pretty. I mean, not trying, she does. I'll acknowledge that and I'll say, oh, that's a lovely jumper you got there, Sandy. I really like that. But I'll mean it. Obviously, I don't sound like I mean it right this second because I'm just putting it on. But
you've already said it.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. So I suppose really, guys, ultimately, in order to be able to communicate about anything in life, because there are obviously some subjects that are much harder to talk about than others, let's face it, and then there are some things that we've done or that's happened to us that we might not necessarily feel comfortable talking about, right? And in Scientology, there are various tools that people can use in order to if you want, train themselves in being able to speak about anything comfortably, but also to then be on the receiving end and receive things that you might not necessarily be happy about, and to do that in a hi Vicky to do that in like a nice way, so that the other person also feels comfortable talking. So if you're interested in finding out more about what you can do and how you can use the tools in the Scientology Volunteer Minister programs and courses to your advantage, and how to really improve your communication, I would say to go on the website, right? The course doesn't take very long. It takes about 4 hours, but there are nice exercises and tools that you can use in order to use communication to your advantage.
Yeah.
So that's it for now. So we're gonna give Charlie his Facebook back, maybe after we've hacked him a little bit. Thank you so much for watching, guys. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope that you have learned some stuff from this little makeshift seminar today about communication. And yeah, so keep doing what you're doing. I hope you're not, that you're surviving through this little strange time right now around the world. But as usual, if you have any questions, we're around, and Charlie is also always available to answer your questions. So you've been listening to Sandrine Mootoo. This is my fiance, Luke Hall. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've learned something. Again, so if you have any questions, the website is scientologyvolunteerminister.org. The courses are absolutely free. There's loads that you can do. And stay safe. Bye, guys.
Bye.